Well, I have just 1:03, so I'm going to get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Financial Empowerment Loan Program, Ways to Work. A big thank you to Walmart for sponsoring this afternoon's webinar, which will provide a lot of important information and resources to all of us across the country. I'm going to see if Nikia is available, our technology and media manager, to go over some housekeeping before we get started, unless she's tied up with technical problems. Nikia, are you there? Okay, I'll take that as a sign. Okay, a few housekeeping tips before we get started. The audio for today's webinar is being broadcast through your computer, so please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. And you can control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel. If you accidentally close the panel, you can open it from the top menu item, Communicate, Join Audio Broadcast. Do not have sound capabilities on your computer, or you prefer to listen by phone, here are the numbers to your right, also your meeting code, and you do not need to enter an attendee ID. Captioning is provided during this webinar for those who are deaf, hard of hearing, or for whom English is a second language. The captions can be found in Media Viewer Panel, which appears in the lower right corner of the webinar platform. If you want to make the Media Viewer panel larger, you can minimize other panels like Chat, Q&A, or Participants. And Q&A, please use the chat box or the Q&A box to send any questions that you have during the webinar to myself or to Nikia, and we will direct the questions accordingly during the Q&A portion at the end. Hopefully we'll have about 10 minutes at the end to address questions. And if you're listening by phone and you're not logged into the webinar, you may also send questions by email to Nikia, my colleague Nikia, at nmatthews, Matthews, at ndi-inc.org. And please note the webinar is being recorded and materials will be placed on NDI's website at www.realeconomicimpact.org. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please do use the chat box to send a message to the host, Nikia Matthews, or you can email her at nmatthews@ndi-inc.org. So let's get started. My name is Jamie Robinson. I am the Manager of Financial Empowerment. I also have a focus on workforce development, and I'm also part of the training and TA team for the National Disability Institute. We want to thank all of our sponsors, Accorder, Bank of America, the IRS, Burton Blatt Institute, and again, a special thanks to Walmart for sponsoring today's webinar. Those of you who are not familiar with National Disability Institute, we are a national research and development organization with a primary mission to promote income preservation and asset development for persons with disabilities and to build a better economic future for Americans with disabilities. Many of you are currently part of NDI's Real Economic Impact Network, which is an alliance of organizations and individuals dedicated to advancing the economic empowerment of people with disabilities. We all consist of more than 900 partners in more than 100 cities across the country, and we include nonprofits, community tax coalitions, asset development organizations, financial education initiatives, corporations, private sector businesses, federal, state, local governments and agencies, and of course individuals and families with disabilities. And all partners join forces to embrace, promote, and pursue access to and inclusion of people with disabilities in the economic mainstream. So today we will hear from two speakers. The first is Linda Brost, who joined Ways to Work in 2009 to lead business development and marketing efforts to support the nationwide expansion of Ways to Work. At that time, Ways to Work has nearly doubled the number of local offices serving clients around the country and the number of families benefiting from the Ways to Work program each year. Professional experience includes leadership positions in both the private and nonprofit sectors. She served as Vice President of Youth Programs for the Indianapolis Private Industry Council, leading a public and private partnership that created a continuum of services for at-risk youth, combining basic skills, life skills, pre-employment skills training with job placement for over 2,000 young people each year. In addition, she was responsible for building and facilitating community coalitions addressing teen pregnancy and private sector support of school reform efforts. As a member of the Indianapolis Private Industry Council, Linda also provided leadership and policy oversight to workforce development programs serving displaced workers, older workers, as well as the integration of state employment services with workforce development centers. Linda is a volunteer disaster response chaplain with the Rapid Response Team and actively volunteers with Samaritan's Purse and VA Mission Board mission projects. Linda graduated from Indiana University and was certified in trauma counseling at the University of Wisconsin. Linda, I'm going to turn it over to you to provide us with a kind of a national perspective of Ways to Work.
Thank you very much, and I just want to thank NDI for providing the opportunity for us today to share the Ways to Work program with everyone who joined us. We'd like to start the work presentations, and Jamie, maybe you can help me with the slides because they're not for things.
Okay, so at the top, do you see in the middle of the page there is a small blue arrow? Yep.
Great. Usually we're doing this in person, but I'm going to ask everybody who's on the phone just to sit back in your chair, if you would, even to close your eyes and maybe just kind of relax your shoulders a little bit. And I'd like you to put yourselves in the place of the clients that we serve every day. And I'd for you, if you would, to imagine what your life would be like without a car. Imagine that starting tomorrow, you had to find a different way to work. Where's this bus stop to where you live? How far do you have to walk? How long would it take you to get to work if you had to ride a bus or multiple buses to get there? If you're like and you have 3 children who are at various ages and had to be at 3 different schools, how many stops would you have to make on the way to work? What would you have to leave home in order to get to work on time? Would you be able to do the job that you're currently in? And then that really gets to me every time is, what would happen if you were at work and one of your children got sick? How do you get to them quickly to be with them when really needed you? That our clients face every day, and you can open your eyes now and rejoin us. But basically, that's part of all of what our program is all about. We're an economic empowerment program that helps hardworking, credit-challenged families build knowledge, capability, and improved credit scores, and over transportation barriers to access additional education and job training, to solidify their position in the workforce and access improved employment opportunities, attain their financial stability and economic self-sufficiency, and take better care of their families. Three components to the Ways to Work program. The first is focused financial education, and that happens in 2 ways. The first is a classroom curriculum-based setting, and the information is brought down to the individual level through individual coaching sessions. The second one of the program is an affordable character-based loan with real-world expectations for repayment. The loans most often are used to purchase a reliable used car. Occasionally they're used to repair a car. The third component of the program is case management support during the loan repayment period, which usually lasts 24 to 36 months. And it's during this time that the lessons that are learned in financial education are applied and new behaviors are practiced. The way we work loans themselves are character-based loans. They're the host agency, our local host agency staff recommendations, and approved through local volunteer loan committee reviews. The loans are up to $8,000 at a flat 8% interest rate, and they carry the 24 to 30-month loan repayment term. Typical payments usually range from about $150 to $240 a month. And the borrowers that we serve are credit-challenged families who are not able to get a loan through traditional financial institutions. They typically will save between $700 to up to $1,000 versus turning to a predatory lender, which often is their only option. Who wants to work with clients? Our typical borrower is a single mom with one or more children, employed. They meet low to moderate income standards. They have poor or non-existent credit history. And the key thing about the families that we work with is that they're dedicated to improving their family economic prospects. The way the program is structured is we have a national office, and that's who I represent today. And our national office provides the program model, the lending capital for the program, the sending system, training, technical, operational support, and have local nonprofit human service agencies that serve as the little host agencies for our program. And this is really where the life-changing services that are provided to Ways to Work clients actually happen. It's the local nonprofit agencies where the actual local staffing for Ways to Work happens. There's a local partnership that's required to operate the program locally, and the local program oversight, implementation, and operational funding happens. Partners and community support are key to the success of all of our Ways to Work programs. Local partners that have at the local level for our agencies would include United Ways, local foundations, employers. JARC is a funding source for the program, and they often work with local asset building coalitions, and also we work with banks and financial institutions, which frequently provide volunteers for the program. We work with local car dealers that are partners for the local host agencies, etc. In terms of our work, and this slide that I have up here is actually just a little bit outdated because we just updated our actual service numbers as of the end of February. As of 2012, we had provided over $63 million in loans through the Ways to Work program and supported over 32,000 families. That number now is up to 34,500 families. Provided 125,000 financial education experiences across the country, and all of that work is done through our local human service partner agencies. And our current 24-month loan repayment rate is 90%. Again, we attribute the success of the program to those local nonprofit agencies that are implementing the program in local communities. The map that is on the screen right now gives you an idea of where some of our legacy programs started, to the new programs that have started since 2010. And then you'll also see the yellow dots that are on that map, and those are locations where we are currently in the process of developing new programs across the country. One of the things we do for Ways to Work is we do an independent program evaluation every 5 years in order to ensure that the program is delivering impact. Our most recent evaluation concluded in 2011, and just give you a few of the highlights from that program evaluation. 84% of the participants reported that the Ways to Work card helped them to maintain or advance in their employment. 82% of bars sustained themselves without TANF cash assistance despite receiving it prior to their Ways to Work loan. 90% of bars reported that the Ways to Work education and counseling helped them to improve their financial situation, and credit scores improved both during and after program participation. Very fortunate this past year that a number of major media newspapers across the country have taken interest in the program, I think particularly because of the recent and the fact that the local communities are really realizing that transportation can be a huge barrier to folks being able to move ahead, being able to access better paying jobs. And so there have been articles in the LA Times, the Washington Post, and also USA Today in 2012 talking about the Ways to Work program, transportation barriers, and also the importance of financial education. As really when you talk to a Ways to Work participant, it's been interesting because they come into the program looking for a solution to their transportation challenges. But when we talk to them after they've been through the program, what they talk about is that Ways to Work and the folks that they work with at that local host agency really has changed their lives. And, this particular quote is a quote from one of our Ways to Work clients, and they were talking about the local host agency that provided them with the services through the Ways to Work program. And this is just a representation of the type of work that Don Lockhart, who you're going to be hearing from next, is doing with the Ways to Work program at the local level. And my contact information, I'm sure we can talk about this a little bit later, but this contact information will be available on this slide for your future reference. And with that, Jamie, I will get back to you so that you can turn it over to Dawn.
Thanks. A really incredible program. When did Ways to Work start?
It was started by the Ignite Foundation over 25 years ago. And they started the program as a result of doing some focus groups with single moms in Minneapolis. Right. They asked those moms what their greatest barrier was to moving forward and being able to provide a better for their children. And resoundingly, what came back was the mom said that transportation impacted so many different areas of their life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it always seems to come back to transportation still. I know we have some workforce staff on the call today who are participating from the Disability Employment Initiative. I'm not sure if you've heard of the DEI, Linda.
Yeah.
Well, they'll definitely be, I'm sure, reaching out and trying to connect with, see if they have a Ways to Work in their area, because many of those projects have a asset development component for the first time. Some of the projects have chosen that, so it'll be great to look up. I want to see. It looked like the dot was near Boston for me, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look up if we have a program nearby. So for participants, please feel free to use the chat box or the Q&A to send any questions that you have for that, and we will address them a little bit later on. Our next speaker is Dawn Lockhart. She is the President and CEO of Family Foundations, a premier nonprofit financial and housing counseling and education organization in the Northeast Florida. It was founded in 1956. Over 150,000 local families have become strong and money Wise. Dawn is the founding director of Consumer Credit Counseling Service. In 2011, the Urban Institute recognized Family Foundations as a national leader in the field of foreclosure prevention, and the Corporation for Enterprise Development, CFED, selected Family Foundations as the Assets and Opportunity Network organization for Jacksonville, Florida. For 27 years, Dawn has been an active leader in the nonprofit industry and sought-after industry spokesperson. She's actively involved with local, state, and national organizations which focus on resiliency and economic stability of families, and has been the recipient of multiple industry awards and accolades during her career. Dawn recently completed her tenure as the chair of the Board of Trustees of the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. This membership organization with over 700 service locations promotes the national agenda for financially responsible behavior and builds capacity for its members to deliver the highest quality financial education and counseling services. Under her leadership, she successfully changed the governance structure from a membership-driven model to one governed by external stakeholders. Locally, Dawn has launched financial literacy, housing counseling, and foreclosure prevention programs that are utilized citywide by local nonprofit organizations, businesses, and the city of Jacksonville. As an industry spokesperson on asset building and financial literacy, she is currently leading 2 region-wide coalitions of strategic partners to move 1,000 families out of poverty in 1,000 days, and the annual MoneyWise Week, a public-private partnership of over 60 organizations hosting over 200 public financial literacy educational events. She is founding member of Jacksonville Housing Partnership, Real Sense Prosperity Campaign, and Character Counts, and consults with nonprofit boards in the development of governance models. Graduate of Florida State University School of Social Work, and certified credit counselor, Dawn is certainly passionate about supporting and building strong, wise families. Dawn, wow, excited to hear from your work and learn from your experience. So I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jamie. And I'm assuming that you can hear me. And
Yep.
so I'm going to go and move forward with the presentation. And listening to Linda, she was talking about the challenges of her 3 children and trying to get the children to where they are. And I'm in a similar scenario where I have 3 cars and 2 of them are broken. And so certainly recognizing the challenges that many of the families that we work with, and I already have a functioning car. So thank you so much, and I really am honored and appreciate the opportunity to be here and to join the National Disability Institute in Ways to Work in promoting what for our community has been one of the most successful new entree programs into our community in quite some time. In order to follow the wonderful presentation that Linda provided on the framework of Ways to Work, I do need to give a little bit of framework into the building assets model of my presentation. So just giving all the participants a little bit of a background, as Jamie mentioned, we launched a model called 1,000 and 1,000. Very simply, we were very fortunate that local foundation recognized that poverty was growing in the Jacksonville area, and this was, keep in mind, prior to the recession, and that they wanted to invest intellectual capital and resources around this issue in order to be able to address this problem. The particular foundation was interested in developing a framework, and so they very quickly pulled together a group of leaders in the community and asked them to put their best thinking together and address that model. Out of that came the concept of very bold goal, which was to develop a framework for moving 1,000 people out of poverty in 1,000 days. And as I heard it sounding to the listeners, it was a very, very bold goal, and the public really was very captivated by the vision of moving 1,000 people out of poverty in 1,000 days, but of course had not yet built the framework, so really didn't quite know what to do. But the wonderful luxury of a foundation who gave us the time to plan appropriately and invest. The other thing that we did as a community was we recognized, those of you who aren't from this area, Jacksonville is the largest city in the country. Square miles, we have the largest city because we're a consolidated city. So we are a county and a city. Therefore, we have no public transportation that provides access to regions of the city and makes it very, very difficult for low to moderate income families to get to where the places of employment are that can provide them with a sufficient income. So in the course of the development of the work, we identified that we were going to build an asset building framework. And so if you can move to the next slide, I'll give you a bit more detail on that.
You can go ahead and move the slides. You saw that little arrow right there?
Where's that?
The arrow right above the PowerPoint.
Got it.
There you go. Okay,
sorry about that. So we defined that the definition for families are more than financial. So a little bit of background, as an organization, we are a strong partner with the Sense Prosperity Campaign. I know many of you have heard of Real Sense Prosperity Campaign. It's a program in Idaho, Northeast Florida, and it's really received national recognition for its success in developing financial stability work and implementing a framework. As a local organization, we are the provider of the individual development account. We're HUD certified. We're a member of the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. So we had an orientation already in the field of credit counseling and financial stability and have had that for 40 years. We began to identify, though, that very early on, assets for a family are more than just financial. We are all very familiar with the financial assets that we all depend upon every day to navigate our lives. But we don't often think about as assets our human assets, which are the credentials that we have as individuals to obtain a source of income and a job that provides self-sufficiency and an upward mobility career track, and then social assets, which are those relationships that we have. And this might be an example of a social asset. We're part of a network, and so we're learning from each other how to take advantage of knowledge that we have. As we studied this concept more, we began to realize that really what we're talking about is the utilization of a framework that some of you who are old social workers like myself will remember, and that was developed by John McKnight, and it's called asset-based community development. And so out of that theory, we identified that we wanted to build a framework, assets that integrated human, fiscal, and social assets for families, and begin to integrate the partners in order to be able to build that model. You see here the framework, and this is very simple, but defines specifically types of assets that we identified that were critical to helping a family take care of their children and develop networks so that they can get to work on time and they can participate in their children's education, the skills that they need to learn, and then, of course, the financial assets. And what we learned was that all three of those had to be independently integrated and customized for every family, because every family is bringing to the table a distinct set of assets that, as case managers, we need to leverage in order to advance asset portfolio to move them to self-sufficiency. So that then took us to what we've learned, and this is where I'm gonna stay here primarily, so that I can then give you the context specifically of how ways to work became the key piece of this work. And quite interestingly, tomorrow we're announcing the results of this particular project to our internal team, and we'll be very proud to report that transportation and solving the transportation problem for the families who participated in this model was a statistically significant solution to ensuring that families had increased their income at least by 15% and were able to move on to a trajectory from crisis to stability to growth to self-sufficiency. We couldn't be more pleased with that because we knew throughout the 1,000 days of working with families that the transportation was a lead barrier to ensuring a family being able to access a dependable source of transportation to get to work and to participate in their lives. So let me give you a little bit more detail on that concept, and then I'll talk with you a little bit about how we as an organization integrate all that we've learned in 1,000 into our ways to work model through a case management system. We learned very clearly in this model that the 2% of the families who had transportation costs of less than 15% during the program succeeded in increasing their income, exceeding the threshold for statistical significance. So for any researchers out there, when you achieve that level of significance, obviously that's very satisfying. We also learned that by ensuring that families have a dependable source of transportation and that it's delivered in the context of 2 years of case management, that we are then able to help them leverage the other assets that are available to them in their lives that they may not have even been thinking about, helping them get access to high-quality child care, ensuring that they're in an environment that is safe and affordable, ensuring that they can participate in the parent skill training that also was deemed statistically a significant factor in helping the family be successful. And then you can continue to see the factors, job training, criminal background, etc. A little interesting tidbit on the criminal background piece, for many of the families in our pilot, they have a nonviolent criminal background. So what does that mean for a family? That means that they are unable to apply for a job that requires a background check. Now, a nonviolent criminal background in the state of Florida can mean something as simple as they had an insufficient funds check that they never cleared, and it went to the state attorney's office. And so here's a family who is unable to increase their income. By simply incorporating into the case management work for families that applied for ways to work, we were able to very quickly identify that there was a barrier there that we could work around, and that's another that we could work around that would put them on a job trajectory that would allow them to develop a self-sufficiency income. So the point of the comment I'm trying to make is that ways to work, we were able to provide a very tactical solution to a very complex problem by leveraging the existing framework of services in our community and meeting the client where they were at. They needed and wanted and told us in droves that they needed a dependable source of transportation, but that they also needed access to quality job training and access to the important financial stability services that are in this community. By addressing an urgent need for them and by addressing their ability to leverage those resources, we were able to then tackle some of the other critical things in their lives that have resulted in a very successful program. Let me tell you what our results are, which is probably the crux of what everybody wants to know. We are very fortunate that we have a very successful program in our Ways to Work portfolio. We have, as of December 2012, I'm going to give you the total number so you can have some context. And for those of you who are thinking about starting a program, you can kind of think about how the trajectory of the flow goes. As of December 31st, we had 1,400 inquiries, program inquiries, for families in the community who were interested in receiving information about ways to work. Out of those inquiries, we have actually received 164 applications, of which the applications, 63 loans were actually approved, and as Linda described, the loan committee, our loan committee, actually operated and met yesterday and approved 3 loans, has a total of 11 community leaders, and typically 8 to 9 show up on a very regular basis. We have a very fantastic loan committee who really take significant ownership in the outcomes of this program. The loan committee itself was pulled from the core group of organizational leaders that participated in our 1,000 and 1,000 programs. They were very familiar with the case management model. Of the 63 loans that have been approved, the dollar amount that was approved was $391,250. 59 loans have been funded, and that $332,000 have been funded. As of December 31st, we had a default rate of 0.4%. Certainly we do have clients who are in the 30-day delinquent status and clients that are in the 60-day delinquent status. We have had thus far 2 defaults, but we have a very intensive case management model that stay on top of that on a regular basis. We involve our board, etc. So the goal for our program is to expand our asset building model with ways to work being a core of that expansion. And then as families are graduating from the Ways to Work program, if they are ready, they are either in a position where they are able to move on into additional assets like home or a savings account through the individual development account to prepare them to buy the next car that will take up to that next level of loan. The other type of asset development that they might require based on the specific plan that they have. So that's a very comprehensive program. We are still learning. We're a fairly new Ways to Work program in comparison to some of the other organizations across the country. But our entry into the program is no reflection on our complete lack of enthusiasm and excitement for the outcomes of this model. It's a key initiative for our community, and it's a key strategy for family foundations in moving families from dependency to self-sufficiency and wealth creation. So Jamie, I'm back over to you, and I know we'll be opening it up for questions and comments.
Great. Thanks so much, Dawn. You know, I'm sure we have a lot of folks on the line today who, are in communities where transportation is the main problem, and so this is really exciting to hear about what you're doing and that there's possibility, to expand this. We have a question. It's directed for Linda. Maria Carter says, I can see this program as being applicable to our participants in assisted housing, or low to very low income. Is a way to receive information about how we might move towards building into either the Ways to Work or perhaps beginning another program?
Yeah, definitely. I'll get information again. And it's also in the slide deck. And Jamie, will that be available to everyone after the webinar?
Yes, it's actually posted right now to the NBI website.
Okay, great.
And in the chat box, Nakia you can actually see the link right in the chat box. Everyone can the slides right from that link.
Okay, great. I'll just go ahead and also give my information. My job is actually to work with communities across the country to help start new Ways to Work programs, and also to work with existing Ways to Work programs and to help establish new referral partnerships, etc. So, and my name is Linda Brost, B-R-O-S-T, and my cell phone number is 414-213-3045. That's always the best way to reach me because I spend a lot traveling, and my email address is allgrowth@waystowork.org.
You gave out your cell number.
She's
all right. Well, that's really helpful. Thank you. I mean, what would be, kind of what are you looking for in communities? Are you looking for communities that are working collaboratively in terms of the partnerships around transportation, or is that not necessary?
It really varies, but the biggest thing that we're looking for is there a need for a ways to work type of program? So is there a population of low to moderate income families where their needs are not currently being met through public transportation?
Mm-hmm.
What we find is even in major metropolitan areas where there are excellent public transportation systems, sometimes low to moderate income families are living in an area where it's not easy to access some of the better paying jobs, for example.
Okay.
So that's we're really looking for need first, and basically we need to find a nonprofit agency that's interested in potentially becoming the host agency for Ways to Work.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be an existing coalition, although it's always great. Certainly the family or the Florida Priority Partnership has been fantastic to work with in Florida because they're an existing asset building coalition, and as Dawn said, they just do fantastic work down there. Some communities don't have the benefit of something like that, but what we look for is that there is support within the community to put a program there.
Okay. And in terms of the folks in line who want to find out if they are near Ways to Work or a host agency, you brought the map up with the dots, but is there a way for them to find that out?
And go to our website, or
Okay.
they can call me as well, but they can also go to our website, which is work.org.
Okay, great.
And then they'll find a map there of our existing sites and contact information.
Great. Okay, I have a question here. This is from Frances Pennell. She says, hi there. We're wondering how the local partners' role is funded.
Linda, start that, and I'll follow with you.
Sure. It really does vary based on the local community and the local host agency. Across the country, so the major funding sources for Ways to Work would be frequently United Ways will help to support Ways to Work in the local community because Ways to Work does address their primary impact areas of education, health, and income. The JARC, Federal Transportation Stream, historically has been a major funding source for Ways to Work. That has undergone some changes in the last few months, and so we're currently trying to figure out exactly how those changes are going to impact the program going forward. But it has been a major source of funding in the past, so we're hoping that will continue to be under its new structure. Banks and financial institutions are frequently strong supporters of the program because Ways to Work is eligible for CRA credit. And then local foundations frequently fund the program. And then, Dawn, maybe you can talk a little bit about some of your local supporters.
Sure. Everything that Linda has said, and as an organization, we have almost all of the funding sources that you referenced, Linda. What really is fantastic for Ways to Work is the value of the evaluation summary. Being able to take, and we all know in the current environment, it's critical that we are able to document our outcomes and that able to showcase our return on investment. And the Ways to Work evaluation summary really does a fantastic job of documenting the economic impact of this program in communities. And so it's very important for the host organizations And hopefully you have a framework. And I would actually be surprised if there were communities on the line that didn't have some form of an asset building framework. It may not be as sophisticated as the one here in Jacksonville, but asset building has been really a strategy in our country for the last couple of years. So certainly I would be happy to help any listener identify a few possible partners. But taking that framework and then really taking the evaluation summary and really educating your community on the true impact of this work provides the opportunity for you to invite new funding partners to the table that might not have been a partner of your organization in the past. And so, of course, it always comes down to whether the particular organization has already expended the funds for the year or they are ready to invest. But the outcomes of the program certainly do make it easier to make the ask and to be invited to the table.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a few more questions around the individuals that participate in the programs. How do individuals become eligible for Ways to Work?
In general, I'll take. In general, the families would basically need to meet low to moderate income guidelines, be at 80% of the median income level or below. They need to be working because it is a loan program, so they need to demonstrate that they are able to repay the loan. And for the total cost of car ownership, as well as their current expenses, and still have a little bit left in order to cover any minor emergencies that may come up. Historically, the program has really focused on trying to be able to provide some benefit to a child as well as to individuals, although at this point in time we'll be trying to expand the eligibility requirements around so that we can serve military members of the military and the broader population as well. Then depending on the local funders, a lot of times the local funding sources we designated to serving residents of certain counties and so forth. I don't know if you have any examples of any other eligibility requirements for your position.
Sure, and actually I apologize. I thought the question was more specifically about how an organization can become an Ways to Work program provider. I'm not sure if that was the question or not. Following up on your point, Linda, and then we can address that. We also want to make sure that, I'll give you a real-life example of a loan that we approved yesterday. We have a borrower who is an active car owner, and her transmission went out. And so certainly that kind of expense is a larger expense than what any low to moderate income family's budget could support. And you have to remember that the size of the loan, you're typically buying an older vehicle, so you anticipate that the car really isn't going to last much longer than the 2-year period. And so in this particular instance, the loan committee yesterday approved the client's eligibility to get a repair loan, and we were managing that through Ways to Work, the Ways to Work portfolio as well. But in order to ensure that she could afford the repair loan, we needed to make sure that she had the available excess revenue in her budget to be able to justify that. So there are always going to be some unique experiences when you're working with low to moderate income families. Their budgets are tight, and you're working with a car that isn't a car, so it makes it a little bit more challenging, but that's where the budget counseling really comes in. It's very important.
Great. So I do think Linda addressed the question around how do individuals become eligible, and then then you carried it forth. And I'm not sure if you did fully answer the previous question that you thought the question was about how do folks become, how do agencies become eligible to become host agencies? Is that?
So if that's the question, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. To be eligible to become a Ways to Work host agency, organization needs to be basically 501c3. They do need to become a member of the Alliance for Children and Families. The requirements that the McKnight Foundation set forth when they looked to scale the program, they were looking for nonprofit organizations that will provide the highest quality of service to clients. And so they asked that one of the kind of requisites for the program be that the service organizations that were providing the program would be a member of the Alliance, which is a capacity membership organization that is focused on helping nonprofit human service organizations build internal capacity to provide the highest quality services available within their community. So the things that we look for are, we do look for organizations that are very interested in partnering widely within and collaborating widely within their communities so that we can serve the largest number of families possible through Ways to Work. And of course, because this is a loan program, there is actually there's an application process for the organization itself and a financial review process that the agency goes through in order to become a Ways to Work host agency too.
Thank you. That's definitely helpful. Now we've covered it both ways, so we've covered both. Thank you. I have a question. Would you say that there are some kind of natural partnerships or maybe outreach that's done by the host agencies, the Ways to Work host agencies, and versus the systems like workforce centers? You mentioned the earned income tax credit, so the VITA sites, your housing agencies, vocational rehabilitation. Are maybe all of the host agencies kind of touch on many of those service systems or certain natural partnerships, or is it really based on each individual site?
For Jacksonville, all of those organizations that you referenced are key partners of ours. In order to be able to get the 1,400 inquiries, you have to have a wide distribution and network of organizations who are constantly keeping the word out. Again, because our work is in the context and in an initiative collaborative framework that has already been functioning, it was a very easy way to go ahead and continue the distribution of this new program into the existing framework. The distribution system was already well trusted by the recipients. It was well known, and so it represented that the coalition was expanding asset building opportunities for families in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville area. So it was an easy distribution system because there was already a known entity that was making that happen.
Okay.
Things that we are working on right now is distributing information to the network of employers in our community, existing employers like hospitals who are dependent upon employees who fit this, for applicant employees who fit the criteria for Ways to Work, and actually helping the individual actually develop match savings in order to prepare them for ownership. So we're really excited about that, to be able to have a partner with goal and regional employers that want to ensure that their employees have a dependable source of transportation in order to get to and from work on time. So when you develop that kind of a relationship and then you are able to take it a next step further, where an employer is actually investing investing in their employees' financial self-sufficiency, then it really is a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, that would be really powerful. Yeah, and it would be great to have the workforce centers on board with that, since they serving the business community as well.
Correct.
Great. Well, Don and Linda, I thank you both so much. They were excellent presentations. This is great information. I know I plan to immediately hop on your website here. I want to see where these programs are, and I hope I have one nearby too. We'll definitely notify these areas too where there's crossover with other projects that we work closely with across the country. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Yep.
We hope that you'll join us for our next webinar. It will be Wednesday, April 10th from 3 to 4. You'll have to wait to find out what the topic is. And we also want to just, again, special thank you to all of our sponsors, in particular Walmart that sponsored our webinar today. And here are some various accounts where you can find more information about us at NDI. I thank you, and I wish you all a wonderful afternoon.